to women empowerment, and women in Kenya are being asked to keep the campaign for equal representation and participation alive.
Veterans in the women rights movement say although strides have been made, the journey to equality and equity in the country is far from over.
NTV's Brenda Wanga spoke to some of the leaders who now point to the impending constitution review as the next frontier in this movement.
The women's rights landscape in the country is filled with women who dared to chart a path where there was none before. Justice Njoki Ndungu, now the only female judge in the Supreme Court, remembers all too well the hurdles she and others of her time in the movement had to jump through.
Then we started seeing a movement towards a more human rights, democracy-oriented Kenya, and women started now demanding for their rights. You know, at that time we only had one woman in cabinet, Niva Mwendwa. We had very few women in government. In fact, we used to say women were totally invisible in government, and therefore we struggled with the need for representation.
That situation has since changed, and many more women are in both elective and appointed positions in both government and private sector. But the veterans of the struggle say the fight is not yet won.
Have the more conservative communities have elected women. So yes, the country is actually rising, not just, again, as I've said, not just elected positions, but in appointed positions as well.
The path to the present situation perhaps benefiting most from the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution.
The women of Kenya had a lot to celebrate, whether it was in terms of equality and non-discrimination, the Bill of Rights, the protection, the right to privacy, protection from personal violence, right to property, equal rights in marriage, parental responsibility being shared between both men and women. There were a number of things which were to be celebrated there.
Women rights activists now say another opportunity has presented itself for women to assert themselves.
You have an opportunity right now in the constitutional amendment process to put in those gains and say, as women, this is our irreducible minimum. For us to support BBI, we must have this put in the constitution. But if you bring it back...
While the push so far has been for the increase of representation to 2/3, the New Age movement is going for so much more.
We ought to have an equal partnership with men as we continue to build a better country.
50-50 ultimately is the end game for the movement that took root in the mid-70s, marked with the first UN Women's Conference in Mexico. The proponents of the women's rights movement now say they are passing the baton to the younger generation, who must rise to the occasion and protect the gains accrued so far.
We need to engage young women more. Young women need to be less complacent and to get on. The struggle is still continuing. We've still got a long way to go.
Brenda Wanga, NTV.